Hey, fifth grade math students. I miss you guys so much, and this is gonna be so weird teaching to an empty classroom, and I hope this works, but I also don't want you guys to get stressed out about anything. So I think the first lesson that I want us to do on Study Island is solving equations and inequalities, and you should be able to see that right there. Solving equations and inequalities. And I'll be sure and go back and figure out what letter that is on Study Island, except remember my teacher page is a little bit different than your, I guess, home page, and so my number and letter might not be the same as yours, so make sure you're on solving equations and inequalities. So what I thought I would do is just go like as if I'm a student and go through all 10 questions and work them out so you could have some examples, and then I really think you'll be able to do this. And this might take 2 days for you to do, and that's okay. I really only want you to take about 20 minutes a day on math. And I really, really, really don't want you to stress out about it at all. But if you don't do anything, then your mind's gonna get a little, I guess, cold. And we want to keep your mind fresh, because really you're not going to be in the classroom again until August, and so that would be like all of April, May, June, July, and a portion of August. So about 4.5 to 5 months, and that's too long, especially when it comes to math. So let's just do a couple of these and get going, and we'll see how it goes. So the first question says, which of the following values of x makes the equation below true? And that's the most important word right there, is what would make it true. And so that's a funny looking x, but that does mean x. X minus 14 equals 26. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come down here and you're gonna plug in the first x, which is 41. And it would be like 41 going right in there for that x. And if you work that out, 41 minus 14, let's see if we get 26, because if we don't, then that would be false. So 1 minus 4 you can't do, so the 4 needs to become a 3, the 1 needs to become an 11, and remember we're going to count from 4 up to 11, so we're going to slap our leg on 4 and count up to 11. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so that gets me 7, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So is 27 the same as 26? Absolutely not, so that's false. So that would not be my answer, because I'm looking for true answers. Let's see if I plug 40 in for x. It would be like putting this x right there. 40 minus 14. Let's see if we get 26, and if we do, we know that that would be true. Well, you can't say 0 minus 4. Like if I have 0 something at my house, you can't come take 4 away from it. So you literally have to go borrow. Some of y'all are gonna wanna put 4 right there. That is so wrong. Don't do that. Instead, come over here, and the 4 needs to become a 3, the 0 needs to become a 10. Slap your leg on 4 and count up to 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That would be 6. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So is 26 the same as 26? You bet it is. So then your answer would be letter B. Let me find my keyboard. So letter B would make it true. Yay, I got the right answer. Same deal. Which of the following values of x make the equation below true? There's that true word again. And there's my x plus 45 needs to equal 86 this time. And not all these are going to be plus. Some of these are going to be division. Some of these might be subtraction. I don't know what we're going to get into. But right now we're adding. So let's take this first x, and we're going to plug it in right there for that x. So that would be 36 plus 45, and we're looking for an answer of 86. So right off the bat, I know that 6 and 5 is 11, and you know what? I don't even need to finish this problem, because my ones digit is a 1, and I needed my ones digit to be a 6. Oh, there's the bell. If only you guys were here to change classes. So it's not A, maybe it's B. B says x is 41. If I plug 41 in right there and add 45 to it, am I gonna get 86? Well, let's see. 5 and 1 is 6. That looks good for my ones digit. And 4 and 4 is 8. Is 86 the same as 86? You bet it is, so that makes my B be the one that's true again. But it's not always going to be B. Okay, now we've got some division going on. Remember, that's another sign for division right there. So x divided by 5 is going to be 25. And where am I getting my x's? Over here. And in the directions it says which would make the equation below true. So if I take this 125 and I plug it in right there, so and you're going to have to rewrite it under the hood. 125 divided by 5. And you remember how I've said this a million times. Could 5 dive into 1? Absolutely not. Could 5 dive into 12? It could. It can't go in there evenly, but it could go 2 times. And 2 times 5 is going to get you 10. And 2 minus 0 is going to get you 2. And 1 minus 1 is going to get you 0, but I really don't think you should put the 0 there. And then you should bring the 5 down. And then can 5 go into 25? We all know the answer to that. 5 times evenly. So since it went evenly, I really don't want to put 25 minus 25 gets 0 because I already knew the answer was 25. So is 25 the same as 25? It sure is, making my equation true. I hope you're catching on here. Uh-oh. Okay, now they are spicing things up a little bit, and I'm going to get a different marker because I want to make sure it's dark enough. Okay, now they're spicing things up a little bit, and they're giving you a greater than sign. So let's talk about that. Okay, so your big mouth is going to open to the big side. So since here's your greater than sign is going to open up to the big side. So this side would be the big side, and this side would be the small side. And remember, we're still trying to figure out what makes it true or not. So let's work some of these, and I think it'll make sense once we get going. So here's our x's again, and we're literally just gonna plug this x right in here for that x. So that would be 39, here's where I'm getting the 39, plus 72, here's where I'm getting that 72. And 9 and 2 is 11, carry a 1. And 7 and 3 would make 10, and 1 more would be 11. So if I was gonna plug this in, I got 111 right here. 111 is greater than 111. Do you agree with that? I don't agree with that. I'm teaching. I don't agree with that. I agree that those are equal, not greater than. So that cannot be true because this would be the sign that you would put there. 111 would equal 111. So that can't be true. It can't be A. Let's see if it could be B. Here's my next x. I'm going to plug in right there. So 39 plus 67. And remember, whatever we get has to be bigger than 111 because of that sign right there. So 9 and 7, if I put 10 right there, 10 and 7 would be 17. And if I take 1 away, I would get 16, carry a 1. And 3 and 1 is 4, and 6 would be 10. So if I come over here and I rewrite the problem, 106 is greater than 111. Well, I don't agree with that. 106 is actually less than 111. So that's not true. It can't be B. Remember, because the big mouth has to open to the big side, and that's not true. This is actually the smaller side, so that didn't work. What about C? If I plug this into that, that would be 39 plus 62. 9 and 2 is 11, carry a 1. 3 and 1 is 4, plus 6 would be 10. Now let's see if that works. If I plug, if I plug 101 right there, is that going to be true that that's greater than 111? Absolutely not. It's actually smaller than 111, so that's not true. So it can't be C. So process of elimination means it has to be D, but I think we should try it anyway. So if I'm going to take this 77 and plug in for x right there, that would be 39 plus 77. 9 and 7, 10 and 7 would give me 17, but I could take 1 away since that was 9, that would give me 16. Carry a 1. 7 and 3 get me 10, plus 1 more would get me 11. Now let's rewrite the problem. This side is 116 is greater than 111. Is that true? It absolutely is. 116 is the bigger number. So that means the answer has to be D. Has to be D. Yay, we're doing good. Okay, now we've got a division sign, but look at the sign this way. Now it's going where the bigger side is on the right side, not the left side. Whoops, so you better pay attention to that. Uh-oh. Ah. There we go. You know how this always does this in class. Drives me crazy. Okay, there we go. So instead of starting with A, I actually think I'm going to start with D. I don't know why, I just want to do a kind of a different order. So if I put 322 right here, I've got to divide by 14. So 322 would go under the hood, and I'm going to divide by 14. And whatever I get has to be the smaller side. In other words, it has to be less than 22 because 22 is going toward the big mouth. So I don't really know my 14s, but I know my 10s. So could 10 dive into 3? No. Could 10 dive into 32? Yes. Well, let's think about that. 10, 20, 30, that's pretty close. But don't forget, that's actually bigger than 10. So instead of 3, I think we should back off and do 2. So come over to the side and do 14 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 1 is 2. I needed 32, I got 28. That's a really, I think that's as close as we can get. So let's put a 2 here. Remember, do not put it over the first number if it can't go in the first number. Sometimes it can go in the first number, but this time it can't go in the first number. It goes in the second number. So 14 times 2 would be 28. You can't say 2 minus 8, so the 3 becomes a 2, and your 2 becomes a 12. Slap your leg on 8 and count up to 12. 8. 9, 10, 11, 12. That gets me a 4. And now I'm going to bring down this 2. So here I am again. I don't know my 14s, but I know my 10s. Well, 10 times what is going to get me close to 42? Wouldn't that be 4? Isn't 10 times 4, 40? And that's pretty close. But since this is bigger, I'm going to back off 1. So I'm going to say 14 times 3 and see what we get. 3 times 4 is 12, carry a 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what I needed. So that would be 3 times. Now let's plug our answer into our equation and see if it would make sense. If I put 23 right here, and the big mouth opens to 22, do you agree that 22 is bigger than 23? Absolutely not. That's not right. So it cannot be D. So let's try C. If I put 308 right here, so 308, and you know what? I should have left these up here since we're dividing by 14, so I'm going to go back and rewrite those. 14 times 2 was 28, and 14 times 3 was 42. That's going to come in handy. I'm going to need that. Okay, so where did I get my 308 from? Right here, because that's where X is, and I'm going to plug that X in for that X. So that would be 308 divided by 14, and I'm rewriting it under the hood. 308 divided by 14. So can 14 dive off a diving board into 3? Absolutely not. But could it dive into 30? It could. Now I'm going to go over here and kind of look at what I've got, kind of like my cheat sheet, and I see 14 times 2 is 28, and that's, I think, as close as I'm going to get to 30. So I'm going to put the 2 right there over the 0. That's important. And 14 times 2 is 28. And now I'm going to subtract. Well, you can't say 0 minus 8, so you're going to have to borrow. 3 becomes a 2, and the 0 becomes a 10. Slap your leg on 8 and count up to 10. 8, 9, 10. So that's going to get me a 2. And then I'm going to bring this 8 down. Can 14 dive into 28? Oh, yeah. 2 times exactly. Well, now let's look at our problem. That would be 22 is smaller than 22. Don't fall for that trick. They're trying to trick you because it's not smaller than 22. 22 is 22. That would be an equal sign, so that's not true. So it can't be C. Okay, let's keep going. And see how that came in handy? My numbers, so I'm just going to leave those there again. Now I'm going to plug 294 in for x. Do you see right here? X is 294, so I'm going to plug that in for x right here, and I'm going to divide by 14. So 294 divided by 14. 14 cannot dive into 2, but it could dive into 29. Let's look over here. Wouldn't that be about 2 times? So I'm going to put a 2 right there. And how did I know that? Because 14 times 2 is 28. And now I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to get a 1 here because 9 minus 8 is 1. But you can't do 2, or you can do 2 minus 2, but that would get you a 0, so there's really no reason to put a 0 there. And I'm going to bring down this 4. And 14 could dive into 14 one time evenly. So now my answer is 21. So let's see if this makes sense. 21 is less than 22. Well, yeah, 21 is actually 1 smaller than 22. So that would make sense that the big mouth would open to 22. So my answer has to be letter B. Now, don't get confused at this. This kind of crazy looking X are the X's that go with this. This X right here is actually a multiplication sign. I don't personally like that because I think they should put a dot there. Do you remember how I taught you guys to put a dot there? But that's not what they did on Study Island. They should have. But, so it's X from here multiplied times 2 to get me 6. And here we go again. Would that make that true? So if I plugged a 4 right there, would 4 times 2 get me 6? No. 4 plus 2 would get me 6. Actually, 4 times 2 would get me 8. So that's not true. So it can't be A. What about B? If I plugged a 3 right there, would 3 times 2 get me 6? Absolutely, because 3 times 2 is 6. So what they're wanting to do is get you all confused and make you think that it's adding, but it's really not. It's multiplying. Okay, now here's a plus sign, which we've already done one, but you know, well, let's just keep going. Now look, instead of a greater than or less than sign, it's actually an equal sign. So whatever X I use right here and plug in right here, it has to be 61. So let's start with the first X. The first X is 82, and if I plug that right there, 82 plus 21, and remember, I'm looking for 61. So right off the bat, I can tell you that's wrong because 2 plus 1 would get me a 1's digit of 3, and I need a 1's digit of 1, so that can't be right. That's not right. But if I plugged a 40 right there in for X, 40 plus 21, let's see if that gets me 61. 0 and 1 is 1, 4 and 2 is 6. Ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what I needed. So there's my answer, letter B. Here's a division sign, and remember, here's the greater than sign. So that means this side has to be the big side, this side would have to be the small side. So instead of X, now they've got N, but remember, all it's doing is representing a letter or a number that's missing, and it doesn't matter what letter you use. So let's just start with A. If I put 195 right here, and I divide by 15, whatever answer I get has to be bigger than 18. It has to. I don't really know my 15s. I mean, I know some of them. I think this first one will be easy though, because wouldn't you agree that 15 could dive into 19? I mean, it's really close to it, so that's probably gonna be 1 time. So let's put 1 right there. So 1 times 15 is 15. And now we're gonna subtract. I'm not worried about that 5 yet. I'm only worried about 19 minus 15. And notice I did not put it over the first number because 15 cannot dive into 1. So 9 minus 5 is gonna get me 4, and 1 minus 1 is gonna get me 0, but there's really no reason to put that. Now I'm gonna bring this 5 down. So 15 is kind of tricky because it's halfway in between 10 and halfway in between 20. Usually we bump it up and we think of 15 more like 20 since we don't know our 15. So if I was gonna count by 20, I gotta get as close to 45. And I'm even gonna put 20 right there. That's just helping me come up with a good answer. So 20, I need to get close to 45. 20, 40, 60 would be too much. So I'm gonna back off and say 2 times. So it really never was dividing by 20. I was dividing by 15. So 15 times 2 would be 5 times 2 is 10, carry a 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I needed 45, I got 30. I really think I can go one higher, so I'm going to try one higher. 15 times 3. 3 times 5 is 15, carry a 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what I needed. So that means it could go in there 3 times. So now I've got to plug this 13 right here, and let's see if this makes any sense. Would 13 be greater than 18? No, it's actually smaller than 18. So that would be false, not true. So it can't be A. So let's try this one. 315 plugged in for 15. And you know what? I should have left these 15s up here. 15 times 2 was 30. And 15 times 3 was 45, because we're going to need that since we're dividing by 15. Okay, so n, right here, I'm plugging in for that n is 315, and I'm dividing by 15. Well, I know 15 can't dive into 3, but I know 15 can dive into 31. Let's look over here at my cheats and see how close I can get. Well, 15 times 2 is 30. I think that's as close as I'm going to get to 31, so I'm going to put a 2 right there. So 15 times 2 is 30, and when I subtract, I get a 1. And 3 minus 3 is 0. Don't really feel like I need to put that. Now I'm going to bring this 5 down. How many times can 15 dive into 15? 1 time evenly. So there's my answer. Now let's plug this in right here and see if it makes sense. So if I said 21, would you agree that that's greater than 18? I would agree with that. That makes it true. So your answer has to be letter B. That would make it true. Okay, 2 more. And I can already tell you this is probably going to take you like 2 or 3 days, and that's okay. Totally okay. So here we are again. This is 10. This is the multiplication sign. And then they're wanting you to get your ends from over here. Okay, now don't forget, whenever we multiply times something that ends in 0, we can let the 0 hang off. So that's going to make multiplying times 10 easy. Also, when you multiply times 10, you're really just adding a 0 to the end of the number, but I'll show you both ways. So here's my n is 21. If I plug that 21 right there for that n, and remember, order doesn't matter, so I don't have to put 10 on top. I can put 21 on top, which is what I would totally do. I would say 21 times 10, and I would let my 0 hang off. But remember, I also said when you multiply times 10, you're really just adding a 0 to that, so the answer is going to be 210, and I'll show you. So you bring the 0 straight down. 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2. So now let's see if this makes sense. If I say 210 right here, out the first part, would you agree that 250 is the big side because the big mouth is opening to the 250 side? That would make 210 smaller than 250? I think that's totally the truth. So the answer has to be letter A. One more. Yay. So far 100. Okay, now we're subtracting. That's the first time we've had a subtraction sign. And here's our greater than sign. So that means this side has to be bigger. This side has to be smaller. Okay, so 226, that's where I got that, minus x. Where do I get my x's from? Right here. So I'm going to start with letter A, would be 122. If I put 122 right there. Now I'm subtracting. 6 minus 2 would get me 4. 2 minus 2 would get me 0. 2 minus 1 would get me 1. So now let's plug this in. If I rewrote the problem, do you agree that 104 is greater than 97? Or in other words, is this the big side and this the small side? I do. I don't even think there's a reason to do B, C, and D. Let's see if we get 100. Boo. Yes. Now we're going to end session. We're going to see what we got. Look, we got 100. Good job. And I'm done. Whoops. Okay. So I'm going to show you where that is. Now remember, my page is a little bit different than your page. So it's down here in the under the 3 section. And it's 3D on mine, solving equations and inequalities. Now, don't forget, I mean, I would totally do the game mode so you could have fun, you could redo it a couple of times, and you know, we told your parents this, and I'm gonna write this in an email to you too, but don't stress about your grades, okay? I just want you doing this. This is already getting my mind like back into the math game, and I want you to be back into the math game because life is all about math. So email me if you have any questions. I check my email constantly, and I'll look forward to giving you another math lesson soon. See ya.